All right, well, let's talk about electrical stuff. What I figured out the hard way is the way I originally wired this in didn't work. And in particular, what I found out is that the stock voltage regulator, which is what I originally used, was no good for the application that that I've got here. Essentially meaning that the way this bike is set up, the alternator that's inside the primary feeds into the voltage regulator, and then from there it just goes to the lights and the speedometer. That's it. Because it's a magneto ignition, there's no ignition system that needs power coming off the charging system, and because there's no starter motor, there's no battery at all. So all of that worked for a while, but after about 1,500 miles of use, the voltage regulator finally just quit entirely. Before it quit, there were symptoms that things were going bad. Mainly riding at night, what I would notice is that the headlight would dim quite a bit, but then it would sort of fire back up if I hit the brakes. And that, I think, was actually a symptom. And what was going on there is that the diodes inside the voltage regulator were trying to basically dump all this extra power into heat, and were essentially overloaded. When I hit the brakes, it put more load on the voltage regulator, which actually kind of gave it a break, and a little more voltage came back, and that's why the light would come back up. So I spent a couple of days going back and forth in email with the guys at Cycle Electric, and they proposed an alternative voltage regulator, one that's actually designed for a no battery application. And I got one of those and I got it installed, and that worked beautifully. They also advised me, see if I can show it to you down here, got that blue thing right there. That is the battery eliminator. And essentially that's just a big capacitor. And between the two, it's working better than it ever has. The voltage at least appears steady. I can put a meter on the output of the voltage regulator. It looks exactly where it ought to be. Lights and everything are working correctly. So that is, I think, sorted out. That should be good to go. But in the middle of all that, I still got some other issues going on here, and this is getting a little weird. About a week after I got that sorted out, all of a sudden I noticed my headlight started going bananas. And then eventually it went out completely. Well, I got into it and I discovered this. If you see that, this is H4 style plug. This is the stock one that came off original to the donor bike. And if you see there, that's where the ground tab goes in, and it's just all melted and screwed up. And so I went down to the auto parts store and I got a replacement. There's the replacement one. And it took it about a week, and it burned it up again. And this really kind of doesn't make any sense to me, because there's a 15 amp breaker in the system, so there's no way we should ever be getting excessive amperage flowing through any of this. Plus, the rear brake light and the tail light are fine, and they're all feeding off the same thing, so this just didn't make any sense to me. The only thing I can conclude is that there was something gunky on the ground tab of the original bulb, and that's what was causing it to heat up in the original plug and then subsequently heat up in the first replacement plug. So after all that, I've replaced it a second time, and this time I went ahead and got a new bulb. So there's a new bulb, just the internal filament, not the whole thing. So new bulb inside, new plug, and I've only had a chance to run it for 30 miles, let's say. And but anyway, so far so good. I pulled it apart after about 30 miles, and there's no sign that it's heating up or showing any, evidence it's going to be a problem. So hopefully that's sorted for good now, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see. In the middle of all that, I did do something I kind of wanted to do in the first place. Just got this little toggle switch, so now I can turn the high beam on or off at will. That's not a weatherproof switch, but with no front fender, I'm not out riding this thing in the rain anyway. So anyway, before I just had wired both the high and the low beam in, so they were just on all the time. Now it's just low beam, or if you want to go like that, you got high beam. That's it. So there's that. I don't know if this video is going to look any different than the others, but I just got a new phone. And it seems to be working fine, but the main thing, well, my old phone, the screen was cracked, so it was kind of a pain. So I got a nice fresh new phone, and what I want to do is go ahead and try doing a kickstart just to see if this new phone handles loud sounds better than the old one, which didn't handle them well at all. So here we go. Well, that's it. We'll have to, I have to wait until I get this thing uploaded and see how it all comes out. Hopefully it's better. But anyway, that's the update. By the way, there's my my Electroglide sitting back there. Might give her a little attention this winter. Still trying to decide. Might be time for some top end work on the motor on that. I don't know. We'll see. Meanwhile, I think the bobber is pretty well sorted. We'll see if the electrical holds up, and if not, we'll solve it again, and otherwise, we'll call it good. Anyway, that is the update. Thanks for watching.